16 Minutes of Care is a podcast based on the 𝗃𝗏 principles, a strategic framework that reveals how brands create impact by caring and, as a result, grow their business. In each episode, 𝗃𝗏𝗼𝗍 welcomes a company executive who explains how care has helped their business grow successfully and sustainably.
Welcome, 16 Minutes of Care, the new podcast formula from the 𝗃𝗏 principles. Petit, Country Manager, the Netherlands and Belgium for GoStudent. Welcome, Ellen. Ellen is here because in this third episode, we're going to talk about Care for Planet, but I would also like to dive deeper again into the collaboration part, because in the second episode, you talked about collaboration, specifically with students and pupils and parents, but I think there's more to it. So I'm very curious and I'll go back to that. But let's start with Care for Planet. Most startups, and specifically tech startups worldwide, they are not very known for their Care for Planet. How is it at GoStudent?
I think roughly the same. And of course, it almost sounds like we don't care about it at all, but that's obviously not the case. I mean, the product, we touched on that before, it takes away all movement. So teachers don't have to travel, parents, students don't have to travel. It's from the comfort of your own home. And I think if we would count up all the traveling sort of avoided, that would make actually quite a big impact. But yes, I think at this point, that's sort of where we stand, and it's the product itself that foresees in that.
Exactly. But I'm very happy that at least you're honest about it, that you don't try to sell me a greenwashing story.
No, we don't greenwash, no. We try to blue wash as our logo, but that's it.
Okay, let's go back to collaboration. Yes. The reason why I want to dive into collaboration a bit more is because we did, I developed together with a market research company, a care scan, which is an internal audit system to see how well a company scores on the 𝗃𝗏 principles, because there's 16 fields in the care strategic framework, so that's quite a lot. So to better understand what is very urgent, where your scores are very bad, and what is quite okay, what you don't need to give attention immediately, really helps to see how you can better implement the 𝗃𝗏 principles. And collaboration has, on this benchmark study of 1,000 companies in Belgium, had the worst score. Only 46% of companies out of 100%. That's failing, I suppose.
I'm nervous to apply it to our company. Oh my God.
No, but so I always like to dig a bit deeper, because we can learn a lot from, and specifically also from startups. How do you collaborate in this fast-growing, and I would like to start now internally with your own people. Okay. How do you collaborate when you're over 23 markets, you're growing faster than fast, I would say. You're purely digital. How do you do that at GoStudent?
Good question. No, that's. Well, I think that this has so many levels. Communication is obviously one of them, but communicating with 50 people and 5,000 people and everything in between is very different as well. So with a startup, as you grow, you have to constantly sort of re-evaluate, is this still working the way we communicate? And are we getting enough out of it? Are we efficient enough? And as we work in sort of a silo organization where we have different departments that need to work together, communication becomes key, and collaboration is very much depending, I think, on that communication and how effective it is.
Do you have tools for that? Do you work with certain platforms that helps you communicate better? We have some project management tools for the for sort of upper level. Apart from that, communication is super open. Slack, everything goes on Slack. I'm a little bit too old for Slack. I find it very distractive, but interesting.
The team can work with it very well. I get lost, but everything is on Slack, and that does create a very sort of low threshold communication. We do all hands meetings for the company every 2 weeks, where the founders speak about what's going on, what's going well, what's not going so well. So everybody is constantly pretty much in the loop, and if you're not, then it's on you. But yes, there is ways to find all the communication. Very accessible. Yeah.
What is the, how many people work for GoStudent?
Around 2,000 now.
Around
yes.
2,000. What is the average age? Do you have any idea?
I was 27. I think we're getting a little bit older now, but it's young. Yes.
It's very young.
Yes.
So tools like Slack, for them it's more normal, let's
Yes.
say, to work with.
Yes.
That I suppose has a lot to do with the fact that you engage a lot of young people, because
True.
you need these
Yes.
tech people. And yeah, interesting. Collaboration with your customers, we talked about that in the previous episode. Let's jump to collaborating with a large set of stakeholders.
Yes.
In your case, that really goes really large, because you talk with public and private educational organizations, governments. Can you explain a bit more?
Yes, also a very big topic. I mean, if we really look at what we want to achieve, unlocking the full potential of every student, then we need to work together, mainly with public education and with governments. And that's not easy. That has not been proven easy, because public education and private education, apparently it's been said that they don't mix. We look at it differently, but yes, that public education is sort of like the holy grail in every country, and that's good. It's good that it's there, but several researchers have shown that it's not as perfect as we would like it. We would like to believe that it is, and we think that working together, the public education can offer the experience, and private education or technology education like us can offer the innovation that is needed to really boost it all to a next level and make it more accessible for everybody.
Is public education and governments in many countries not still looking at education in a very traditional way?
Yes, but I want to be very careful of sort of say, okay, they're doing that wrong, they're doing this wrong. UNESCO researchers have shown that mostly every country except, I believe, Denmark, Ireland and Finland, the spend that government do on education doesn't get evenly distributed. So where we like we say, oh my God, public education, great. But it's not as equal as we think it is. This government spend gets allocated more towards higher income groups than it goes to lower income groups, for instance. If you just put more money in that and no innovation, then you're just inflating the system that is not really working actually. And if you look at that, if you see where governments have allocated funds to education, put more money into it basically, results are not that good. That they go a bit up, but not as much as you would expect from the money. So Belgium, Netherlands, same thing, not enough money, not enough teachers, and then the solution of indeed governments is more money. We think the solution is innovation. And I tend to agree with you with what you said, that they are big fans of the traditional system. And innovation does not mean dismantle the original system. It means make it better. Look for the inefficiencies and look at technology and how it can help you. Don't put a digital whiteboard in your classroom and say that you've now technologically innovated your education system.
Do you have examples? Because you were saying Ireland, Finland, well, basically Scandinavia, they are ahead of other countries. What type of innovations in educations do you already know work?
There aren't many. That's a little bit the thing. We always joke that if you sit with your grandparents, they always say, oh my God, the world has changed so much, and technology and phones. But school has been the same experience for them as it has been for our children now. That's 2 generations in between. So that is actually the point. And trying out, combining a few classes or combining a few levels, that's not innovation. And I think what private companies can bring to the table is that we can go all out the box. Do children still need to learn how to write by hand? I'm not saying yes or no, but I think those questions we can actually ask ourselves without being restricted by the sort of OG education system, and really think that, do we? I mean, again, I reference my math teacher entirely too much in this podcast, but he used, and I'm sure...
Will you listen to this podcast, Ellen?
Is he still alive? I don't know. He was old then. But he said, you have to do this because you won't have a calculator around anytime you need to calculate. I do. We all do. So I think that's what private education can bring to the table. In general, for innovation, and then definitely for technological innovation. I do not think, indeed, that within governments or public education, the knowledge is there.
Mm-hmm. Previously to this recording, I had two CEOs here who are growing really fast, really looking for high-level talented people. And both of them said, we are not so much looking for competence, because competence, we can teach it to the employees that sign up for our company. We are looking for people with attitude. We are looking for people that have a cultural fit. We are looking for people that share the same values that we value. Do you agree with that?
1,000%, but that has like sort of two parts. The one part is the competences that we teach our children, and I'm not now talking about university level, do not match the competences that companies right now need. The fact that in most studies you do 10 or 15 years with sort of the same textbook already shows that there is no innovation. So I think all CEOs, and me included, would love to hire for competence, but there's no match. So then we go the other way.
It's actually the same, Ellen, with universities. I mean, I have had a lot of trainees that go and study marketing or communication.
And they still have to do 𝗃𝗵𝗶𝗀𝗍.
And they come here and they work with marketing models and brand strategy models that are as old as the century sometimes. And I say that has nothing to do with how you reposition a brand today. They have no knowledge at all, and everything they have studied. But that's really sad, isn't it?
That is really sad, and that's what we feel like as a company, and pretty much everybody in the company as well. We all know that this is true. And what we want to be really careful about is that we're not trying to sort of dig at teachers or schools or educational institutions, but something has got to change. I don't think we can give you the change and what it will exactly look like, but in 50 years from now, that's absolutely the goal, or let's say 50 years, something will have changed, because these types of things need to change, and it's a disconnect in knowledge. But it's also the attitude is also sort of lacking, because students after university think that they now know it. And then they end up in a job and they don't know it. It's just really too bad.
And I suppose also lifelong learning, being open to that, and having an attitude indeed of saying, I might know things, but what I know is not enough, and so I will have to keep on training myself and learning myself. I guess that is also something that is important in terms of attitude. But you cater only the younger students. You don't go into tutoring yet.
You got to start somewhere.
That's true. That's true. Let's talk about the last part of collaboration with stakeholders. So we said, okay, so private governmental. Do you see examples of governments in certain countries where you say they really understood this message and they are really innovating? Can we learn things? Do you have tips and tricks to share with us on that part?
I think at this point we really need to just start having the conversations. The countries that I just mentioned are on that was a good example of spending money equally so that public education is actually accessible equally. But for now there is a lot of inequalities to accessibility of education, also in Western Europe, also in our own countries. And it's not only government, it's also the people that live in the countries. We think that our education system is great. And it used to be, but we haven't really caught on with the program, I think.
So there's a lot to innovate, there's a lot of things to do. But talking about inequality, I think that's an important issue. Because you're online tutoring, you have to pay for it.
Correct.
Are you also not just for the rich kids and the parents that do have the means to pay for online tutoring?
Yes, because it has a monetary threshold, so that will always exclude people. I think looking at competitors that we are, also because we don't need a building and we can do it online, that we are a bit cheaper. I've heard prices for up to 35, 40, 45 euros an hour, so that makes a difference. Besides that, that is something that we aim for, but we are also a company. In a longer term, that's absolutely something on the agenda, whether that be through sort of study funds or grants or through the innovation and collaboration with governments, that we can make all education more accessible. On the other hand, if you look at accessibility, price point, yes, but remote areas, like as long as you have internet, and we know that internet is pretty much everywhere in the world, you have access to the best fitting tutor for you. So
exactly. So when you live in a small village and there's only one teacher who teaches several classes, now you can have access.
It doesn't matter. Yes.
Yeah, that's a nice point. Accessibility is a good thing about online tutoring.
True.
Thank you, Ellen. Let's leave it here for the third episode of 16 Minutes of Care. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and stay tuned. I'm going to talk more about empathy, about youngsters, about kids, and why it is important, because they are our future. Thank you very much, and take care.
Want to create lasting impact with your brand while feeding sustainable growth? Check out 𝗃𝗵𝗲𝗃𝗶𝗱𝗲𝗀 and see how we can help you. 16 Minutes of Care is an independent production from 𝗃𝗵𝗲 brand strategist, founder of the CARE Principles, and author of the book, Does Your Brand Care? Help us reach more companies who are looking for caring and sustainable growth by giving this podcast all the stars it deserves and by sharing it in your network. Thank you and take care.